Dr. Adrian Krieg, based on the current political situation in the world, and especially concerning America now, what do you think the economic ramifications are? What do we have to look forward to?
Well, I'm not overly optimistic, I have to say, because the political situation is very bad at the present time, within a Congress with an 11% approval rating, a president in the 30% approval rating, the people in opposition to the government in large percentage, certainly well over 55%. And that has economic impacts. People tend to invest or react economically based on their political situations. I have to say I'm absolutely not optimistic about what I see in the coming 3 to 4 years. The two upcoming elections will impact greatly on how the country moves forward. I think that the 2014 election, if the Republicans retain the House and get over 50 senators, 51 at least senators, it will certainly slow down what the government has been doing in the past 6 years. Should the Senate remain under Democratic control and Harry Reid at its head, I think the country will begin to stagnate. There's no impetus for anything to move ahead. Harry Reid now is holding over 100 congressional bills on his desk. He will not let the Senate vote on them, and the reason he won't let them vote on them is because he knows a majority of those bills would probably pass in the Senate, and that would be bad for his political party. Harry Reid is a totally political animal. He has no interest in the country. He has interest in keeping himself and his cohorts in power. That's all that interests him. So this certainly has economic repercussions. The fact that our treasury is essentially broke, and by that let me explain that. Most people assume that we have a large gold supply at Fort Knox, and that the New York City Central Bank has a large gold supply. I don't believe that to be a fact. I believe that the gold supply in New York City belongs mostly to foreign nations, and that Fort Knox is empty. So let me explain why I believe that. About 3 months ago, the German government said, you are holding 31 tons of gold, German gold, in America that was sent over during the Cold War to protect German assets, and we would now like that back. And the United States Treasury, the Federal Reserve System, responded by giving them back 15% of the gold and telling them that the balance would come over the following 7 years. That certainly would indicate that there's a shortage, that they can't meet the demand requirements. The Swiss government likewise requested return of gold, and that we don't even know what the answer was in that case. So economically, the dollar is being issued backed by nothing. In March of, 2012, in March of 2012, the Federal Reserve System began purchasing back dollars that they issued. In other words, what they were doing is they were saying, we have a shortage, we are selling dollars in order to meet our obligations, our debt, but nobody is buying because the interest rate is low and there's other options that people can buy gold and the return is higher. So they started buying it back on their own and issuing paper that's worthless. This accelerated in the Obama administration in the beginning of the second half of the Obama administration, when they started to purchase $85 billion a month of currency. That's a lot of money. You know, that's $1 trillion a year. And they continued this for a very long time, and then I think about a month ago they said they were going to reduce that to 75 billion, so instead of being $1 trillion, it's 900 million. What you have to understand is this money is backed by nothing. There's no asset backing that money. This money is simply created out of thin air. And this money is being issued as the paper that you use. It's worthless. It costs the government approximately 1 penny for each bill that they produce. It doesn't make any difference, a $1 bill or a $5 bill or a $100 bill. It costs them a penny. That's what it's worth. It's worthless. And people don't really realize that yet. But they will realize it because, and I think this is the real problem that's coming, is the dollar will be removed as the international reserve currency. And I think that's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. Once the dollar is removed as the world reserve currency, we are in very, very serious trouble. We have been buying things based on the money that we produce, which is worthless, but is being accepted. Now, it's not being accepted as well as it used to be. 1952, the Swiss franc was 87 cents. Today, it's $1.30. So that's a 400% rise in the Swiss franc to the dollar. This is happening pretty much internationally. And as the dollar is devalued more and more, the impetus for the international community to change to a different currency as the world reserve currency, and remember that before the dollar, the British pound was the reserve currency. And then you have to remember, why did we get into all those wars? We got into those wars because Libya refused to use the dollar, accept the dollar as the reserve currency. They were selling for euros. The Russians sell all their product for euros, not for dollars. Venezuela is doing the same. Iran is doing the same. There are about 7 nations now, internationally, that are not accepting dollars as the reserve currency. That is bound to grow. And as that grows, the situation for the dollar will become very dire. Once the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, our consumer prices will rise at rates that you can't believe. I would venture to guess that the average product that you're buying, most of which are coming from China, some Taiwan, some other parts of the Far East, India, will rise probably by 100 to 150%, bringing them pretty much to the same level as what prices are in Europe. This will have a devastating effect on this country, economically, socially, and politically.